If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Good morning and welcome to today's broadcast, being August the 26th, 2025. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show. I was getting ready to say with Mr. Neely Fuller, but Neely Fuller's Counter Racist Code Show. I am one of the co-hosts, and with me is Gate, and I will be introducing him in just a moment. But let me get some housekeeping items done. First off the bat, we will be discussing things that are in the book, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, which Mr. Fuller wrote. And you can get that book or those books by going to the website producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. You can get all 3 of the books. Now for the housekeeping, the subject for today is Labor Day and slavery. Is everyone complicit by working the system? All right. Now, on housekeeping items, you can support and promote the show by hitting the like button and the share button. Now, to watch the show live, go to YouTube at Produce Justice, Facebook and Instagram at Produce Justice Neely Fuller Jr., and you can also watch the show live at producejustice.com. By the way, a replay of the show is available immediately on all the platforms. To get on the show to share your thoughts, click on the link in the feed and you will be prompted on what to do next. You can also read the passage from one of Mr. Fuller's books on air for discussion. Now, to contact us off the air, send your questions or comments to contact@producejustice.com. And as I mentioned when the show started, to order books, go to producejustice.com. With the housekeeping items out of the way, let me introduce the other co-host, and that will be Gate. Gate, good morning, and how are you?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Bobby. 1 second here. As Mr. Bobby stated, I'd like to welcome everyone to the show. I'm Gate, and I am the co-host. This is Mr. Neely Fuller's Counter Racist Code Show, and we are here to keep Mr. Fuller's legacy alive. We're not here to replace him. We're not here to co-opt him. We're not here to debate. Mr. Fuller believes that everybody has a voice and that your voice should be heard. We're all victims, and as victims, all of our voices are important. Today, we're going to talk about the intersectionality between race, racism, and rights. And we're doing this on the heels of so-called Labor Day coming up this weekend. Many people will be celebrating and eating hot dogs and putting away their white shoes for the year. As Mr. Fuller has always stated, we never have a reason to celebrate as long as we're under the system of white supremacy. And I concur with that. People do find reasons to get together and to honor and acknowledge certain things, but celebration, until we get rid of this system, until it's been dismantled, then according to Mr. Fuller, celebration should be off the table. Now, the way this show works, let me give you some, Mr. Bobby gave you the house rules. Let me just tell you how this show is structured. We bring to the table topics and give context to certain quotes of Mr. Fuller, some of his words that he's written, some of his recordings that we have. We're going to try to play today, but for some reason, the recordings are kind of dragging and they're kind of slowing down the show. So we'll try it. If it doesn't work, we'll just talk. And I also invite you I invite you to join the conversation. I don't have a monopoly on Mr. Fuller's thoughts or his actions, his speech, his process. So I invite you. This is your show as well. As a matter of fact, I see Terry in the waiting room, in the green room. We're going to bring him on board. And anybody else, we're going to put the instructions. There's a link we put in the feed that tells you how you can join the show. And just follow that link, and it'll give you the instructions. And like I said, Mr. Fuller left us on February 1st of this year. He went to join the ancestors, and he left behind 3 books. He gave us a code. And we're in a system. We're in a system that uses a code. And so he wrote a counter-racist code. And that code is to help us, to guide us, and to help us use the right words. And when we get in these situations where we're uncertain, we can always go back to the code. So when we come across these topics, like today, on the heels of so-called Labor Day, we have to go back and what I try to do is run it through the code. Now, I'm not perfect. And like Mr. Fuller says, I'm still learning. Mr. Fuller said he was learning right up into his final days. So people evolve, people change, and the context changes. We're in an era right now where things are like we've never seen them before. So on this, we're going to talk about this Labor Day, and which was started back in 1894. And I put a question out here. As I said, this intersectionality. Are we still, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery as we know it. But we have 800,000 people right now that are actually working that are not being paid. And there was a loophole in the 13th Amendment that said slavery was, you can't force people to work for free unless they're in the prison system. So is a loophole to get around that is by imprisoning, putting more people in prison and keep the system of slavery going. So that's one thing I'm putting out here. And so also we have to look at the fact that Labor Day, that many of the labor rights movements did not include non-white people. So there are all these reasons why we should not be celebrating, but that we should continue the work of dismantling this system of racism and white supremacy. We're going to try to play some of Mr. Fuller's words today. And I want to thank everybody. I see many people in the feed. I see Sack 7, he echoed what I just said, don't celebrate, educate. I definitely co-sign to that. Go ahead, Mr. Bobby, before I dig a little deeper here.
Concur with you. Maybe later on in the show, I can give you a little history on Wall Street and the slavery, if time permits. But you're right on it. So continue the way that you were going, and we will get people's thoughts and chats and have a lively discussion.
All right, I'm going to bring Terry. Terry's in the waiting room. I'm going to bring him out of the green room and get his take on the topic today or anything he wants to talk about. He put him up here on the screen. Terry, welcome to Mr. Fuller's Counter-Racist Code Show. And good morning.
Grand Rising, brothers. I didn't even realize I was going to be on, but I'm glad to be here. And I concur that we ought not be celebrating anything. We're in prison. And when you're in prison, and this is my VGQ, you are a slave. The warden tells you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, why you should be doing it, how you should value it, etc. And this is being, of course, having been listening to Mr. Fuller, having met him many, many years ago when I was at Howard University, and just sponging off of the brother. Back then, I didn't understand a lot of what he was saying. It sounded so contradictory, but it was still alluring. We have never been out of slavery. Since the first contact, in my view, since the first contact with these colonizers, we have been enslaved ever since. I think those people that come to understand that they're enslaved, they're in a better position, albeit one hell of a position, but they're in a better position to counter it. And so I'm going to just give a view of a conceptual framework of how I look at the system. We are in a prison system, and they're always talking about walls and building walls. And so I see the system having these walls that are invisible. And then I decided that I'm going to counter this wall by looking at one of the squares in the wall that has 4 sides. I realized my strength within my limitations. I am ensconced in these 4 walls, these 4 sides. But to counter this wall, to take down my little brick in this wall, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life by being constructive in what I think, say, and do. My TSA, sort of like what you said at the airport. TSA, think before you speak and act, or you might fly the hell off the wrong way. So today I get up, I'm breathing. I didn't know I was breathing until my wife told me I was snoring. And like Dr. Fuller would say, or Mr. Fuller would say, hey, now I'm breathing. What am I going to do? So I get up and I start getting physical, taking care of my physical, because without that, there's nothing of me that anybody can tell. I mean, I might be spirit, but I can't get no credit or can't even be blamed for something because I'm not here. So I got physical, got busy. I'm always focusing on learning something. So the physical part is my keystone. This is God's property. And since I know it's his property, I don't want to get kicked out before my lease is up. So I better take care of his property. Capstone, I got to keep learning and use what I have to deal with life as it comes to me, and then especially life inside this prison system. If I don't use my best tool, if I don't use my best weapon, shame on me. Thirdly, the third side is social. I got to watch the people I sit down and eat with so I don't have to compete with people, even if they're blood relatives of mine, because many of them might want to take me out. So I still love them, but I approach them with the love of a dove, but the mind of a serpent. Yeah, I'm from the hood, so I understand how slime and sneakiness and deception comes about. And when I see it, instead of hurting them, engaging in what I'll call retarded chess into Nissan activity, I want to get out the way. You can see my back is small. And I'm not saying I'm not going to deal with you ever again, but as Mr. Fuller would say, not now. Okay, so I'll talk to you some other time, and I'm out of here. I might look for another way to build a bridge, but in the meantime, in between time, I have to take care of myself. So I'm out. I'll talk to you when I walk to you. Please don't be down when I come around, or my back will get small again. I don't want to hurt you, but I'm not allowed to let you do anything, not just to me, but to God's property. If I can't hurt it, what the hell do I look like letting you hurt it? And then last,
go ahead, Terry. You were finishing up.
Yeah, last but not least.
Okay.
I stay prayed up because who or whatever sent me here for a purpose. And I believe it's God. That's the way I believe it. And so he sent me here. She sent me here for a purpose. I better be standing on business on purpose. That's my VGQ. Thank you.
Well stated, my brother. Well stated, my brother. And I invite you to come back. You came with receipts, history, and like you say, you prayed up. So, and I appreciate you, brother, for joining us this morning. And like I said, don't let this be the last time. I'm going to leave you on the screen until you go ahead and excuse yourself if in case we have to come back to you for your insight on other topics as we go through this show. I'm going to try to get with one of Mr. Fuller's quotes. Now we're going to talk about this labor thing. Now, Mr. Fuller, I'm going to tell you some of his quotes from his book, and you can look at the area 4 of the 9 areas of activity. And he said labor means the act of using time, energy to accomplish an objective. Constructive labor can and should be entertaining. Now that if we break that down into our normal everyday activity, some people just say, as long as you're working, as long as it's having fun, it's not work. Or you should be, if you're going to be spending that kind of time and energy on something, it should be entertaining. And as Mr. Fuller said, fun. On page 423 of the code book, he said, work, 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 and more work should be welcome. Constructive work will always help make you a better person than you thought you should be. Constructive work should be regarded as fun. So Mr. Fuller was this, he had this view of work that it shouldn't be this arduous thing that you dread. It should be something constructive while simultaneously being fun. He also had another take. This was also in the code book. He said he was an advocate for the bartering system because he felt that the money is dominated by racist man, racist woman. His exact words was, to the best of your ability, practice trading and exchanging information, labor, material, etc., without using and or without directly depending on the use of money. Now, he didn't say don't use it, but you can find other ways to barter among yourselves. In other words, work as a community collectively and not necessarily depend everything on a system that is directly controlled by the racists. And another thing, and let me try to get one of his words up here. This young lady called into the show. Mr. Fuller had a show on Blog Talk that Mr. Bobby was the co-host and I was the engineer. And he dropped some gems, and sometimes those gems may or may not been listed verbatim in the code book. So that's why we tried to weave and intertwine some of Mr. Fuller's exact words while he was still with us. And I'm going to see if I can get this one to play up. If not, we'll keep moving. Okay. That was quick enough. Now, I'm going to go back to something else Mr. Fuller had to say. And what we're talking about today, and I want you to jump in, Mr. Bobby. What you're talking about today is we're talking about this upcoming Labor Day weekend. People are going to be on the road. They're going to be going to see, they're going to be having reunions and doing all types of celebration. But according to Mr. Fuller, it's not something to celebrate. And according to the evidence, we should be hunkering down, working even harder to dismantle this system. Because according to him, all of us, indirectly or directly, supports this system. Not because we want to, not because that's our desire, but because the way the system works. It is a system. It is a system that's individual. It's institutional, and you collectively, it is systemic. So we're in a system that even when we call ourselves our own boss, we are still beholden to this system. And nobody has proven that more recently than the man that's occupying the White House. You can be the mayor. You can be the governor. You can be the head of a college, an institution of higher learning. You can be the head of a law firm, the head of a bank, and you still cannot escape the tentacles of this system, particularly when you have somebody who's calling the shots, who is the embodiment of that system. So as we come upon this Labor Day, we have to do some introspection. We have to ask ourselves, are we a pawn in this system? Are we complicit in it? And I use this theory when I run up against these contradictions and conflicts. The medical term that the doctors use when they get their degree, they say primum non nocere. First, do no harm. You can't operate in this system and not be impacted by it. But at the very least, you should not let the system use you to harm others. Now, marinate on that for a minute. We cannot escape this system as long as it exists. This show, Mr. Fuller even said that about his show. He said, if white supremacists going to come in here and shut me down tomorrow. So the key should be, as we embark upon this Labor Day, we should hunker down with a call to action to make sure that people get fair wages, to make sure the minimum wage law is increased, to make sure there's fair working conditions, to make sure there's pay disparity. Right now, Black women make 60% of what a white male makes in the workplace. So there are some challenges out here in this system on this Labor Day that we should be working day and night, not falling asleep, being woke, to make sure that whatever we do, while we do what we do, I call myself self-employed. I say, well, I don't have a boss. And when we look at the word boss, where it came from, we start to discover that maybe we all have a boss, whether we like to realize it or not. Particularly as long as you are in this system. I can't call myself my own boss when I'm working in a system where we're existing in a prison yard, where we're under a system that is hell-bent on withholding rights, withholding privileges, distributing opportunities unequally. So I'm making my own call to action. Yes, I'm going to do my best to make sure that first, I'm not harming anybody if I have to work in this system. And you can ask yourself, if you are a boss, quote, end quote, if you are working right now, you are probably working for a company, because in the United States, non-Black people are about 13% of the population, but have about 2% of the hiring capacity. That leaves 11% gap. So that means about 11% of us are working. I mean, that 11% comprises quite a bit of our population that is working for somebody who we consider white, suspected white supremacists. So there's a certain decorum that goes along with that. And sometimes that decorum contradicts our ability to fight for justice and to dismantle this system. Mr. Bobby, I know I said a mouthful there. We have other. I'm going to put up some of the comments from the listeners. Go ahead. Hold it. Let me get you unmuted here. Go ahead, Mr. Bobby. Wait a minute. Hold on. Everything is dragging today.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I was hoping that you would mention about some of the comments that some of the people are making, because I found them very compelling. And I wouldn't mind if you put some up now and we can discuss those.
All right, let's do that.
Now, I have nothing on. Oh, there you go. There you go. Go ahead. The system of white supremacy works most efficiently than any other system devised by people, but it destroys people and makes people enjoy destroying each other. That's from, I call him Sat7. He's been a long time contributor to the show. Very good knowledge, but he is absolutely on point on that one. Do we have another one?
All right, I'm going to keep them coming.
Okay.
And the thing, it is dragging today, so bear with us.
That's all right. That's all right. As long as we can get the people on and people in the chat. Stray Godzilla 22 says some states did and some states do not uphold the 14th Amendment. He's absolutely on point on that one. Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
And
let's see if we can get another one in here. Yeah. And what is that? Dina Brody says, good morning. I hope everyone is healthy and well. I'm still learning. In fact, we are still learning. To bring up a point, Gate, in order to grasp what is really happening, and I've mentioned this several times, but I'm going to mention it again. Mr. Fuller has written one of the most dramatic statements that has ever been produced by a human. And he said it at the beginning of every show, if you do not understand, he said racism, which is white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. And he is absolutely correct. Now, to show you how prophetic and how profound that system is, just take that and say, if you don't understand. Now, put anything in there, anything that you want, anything, and repeat the same thing, and it is absolutely true. Now, we speak about dismantling the system. Well, to put dismantling in there, you have to understand what dismantling is and how does dismantling work for us to get off our carcasses and begin to do the work that is required to actually dismantle the system. Because if you don't, it will continually get worse, as it has and as it has been predicted. So that brings up what Mr. Fuller said about the importance of words, how to use them, what to do and what not to do. It's very, very important. So that's why I submit the comments. Still Learning says, how can black power lift the black people's psyche? Good point. Out of the conditions of enslavement. Now that's a very good statement, Gate.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Still Learning. How can black power lift the black psyche out of the condition of enslavement? Well, one of the first things we have to do when we're talking about a problem is admit that there's a problem, and that people have to understand that they are in a condition of enslavement. Because, like I said, we have people right now who are working. Some people are on their jobs right now as we speak. Some are running businesses, and some are looking for work, and some are actually actively supporting the system knowingly. And so we have to understand that this system exists. And we have to understand that our power under the current system is limited. So, but at the same time, we can't psych ourselves out into a position, a condition of disillusionment. So we have to walk a very tight rope. We have to understand that we're in a system that's almost omnipotent. But at the same time, being have studied psychology myself, there is a certain amount of hope and aspiration that's required to make you want to get up and go out here and fight this system. If you sit there and say it's all hope is lost, then your ability to fight the system is going to be minimized. Mr. Bobby.
Yeah, let me read this. It's right into it. It's called Wall Street established as an official trading post of enslaved people. That was in 1791. Less than 60 years after enslaved Africans built the wall for which Wall Street would be named, New York would erect a market at the corner of Wall and Water Streets, designing it as the city's official slave post. Get that. Later, big banks began a practice of selling scrutinized slave bonds to investors. These bonds generated revenue for Wall Street investors as enslavers made repayments of mortgages on enslaved people. The bonds were scrutinized, secured to pool debt from many borrowers so that the debt could be sold off in uniform chunks, reducing the risk inherent in lending to one person at a time and in trading in human life for productivity. Citizens Bank and Canal Bank of Louisiana collected approximately 13,000 enslaved people as collateral and directly owned more than 1,200 human beings. Both are companies of which what is now J.P. Morgan Chase Wachovia Bank, owned by Wells Fargo, and Banks of America also have acknowledging profiting from these ties. At the time of his death, the estate of Moses Taylor, who served as president of Citibank, now Citibank, for 18 years, was valued at roughly $70 million, or around $1.9 billion in today's dollars. He remained one of America's richest Americans all the time, thanks in large to part of his illegal financing of the slave trade. What I'm trying to point out is Wall Street, and we need to know the history of it. That's why I pointed it out of what's going on and what is in the news every day, Monday through Friday, with the exception of the Saturday and Sunday. Stocks, bonds, and trade, and we are, as a people, are not mostly included in that. This is what's going on with Wall Street. This is precisely one of the many reasons why the system has to be dismantled, because it affects the least, the lost, and the left out, which is what? Mostly us. We've been targeted that way. Gate?
Thank you. Thank you for that commentary, Mr. Bobby. Appreciate that. We have another follower in the green room, Derek. I'm going to bring you on. I'm assuming that you want to come on, so I'm going to put you up here. If invite you to join the commentary. Before I do that, we had a question about what we can do with the black psyche to help us fight this system. And Sack 7, he put up a good comment. He said start with the 10 basic stops. And if you go to the code book, Mr. Fuller, he had certain things such as the 4 wants and the 10 basic stops, and the areas of dislocation and things like that. But he said, according to, I'm just going to read these quickly. Stop snitching, stop name calling, stop cursing, stop gossiping, stop being discourteous, stop stealing, stop robbing, stop fighting, stop killing, and stop squabbling. So stop squabbling is a big one. And if we say stop snitching, he doesn't mean like in the sense of like somebody who's committing crimes. He's saying stop snitching on other fellow prisoners who are attempting to dismantle this system of white supremacy. Let me get Derek up here.
Yes.
Derek, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Gatewood. Thanks a lot, Mr. Bobby, for continuing the Neely Fuller tradition and the legacy.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment. I use artificial intelligence, just a heads up. And I asked a chatbot, which is not ChatGPT, but Perplexity. And I asked it one question. I said, what are the 9 areas of activity in the book of Neely Fuller Jr.? And it gave me all the 9 areas of activity. Gave me all of the, perfect, did a great job. But my question I really asked him was, how does each area of activity relate to the Project 2025 agenda? And it gave me everything that it relates to. And since we're talking about labor, I'm gonna go down and talk to you exactly what it said about labor.
Please.
Okay, it said labor. Project 2025 seeks to abolish many labor protections, including restrictions on union organizing, the contract bar rule for decertifying unions, public sector unions, and wage protections, such as the Davis-Bacon Act. The plan aims to make organizing unions far more difficult and gives more power to employers. And that's what it says.
Man, let me tell you something. Last week, we did a show on how the system was attacking the 9 areas, how racism and white supremacy was attacking the 9 areas of activity. And so you are actually, you're co-signing on many of the things we talked about last week, because when you look at that Project 2025, and you're going to find out there's some, we're seeing a lot of these things manifest themselves in real time. And the question we also had last week was are we seeing the manifestation of white supremacy and being codified into law using Project 2025? And so I'm glad you brought that emphasis onto labor, because labor, as we're seeing this project 2025 being played out in real time, and like right now I'm over in the Washington D.C. area. We have this criminalization and over policing of Washington D.C. And all of these things are actually been spelled out. We should not be surprised by anything that we're seeing take place right now, because Project 2025 is in full force. For anybody who's not sure what that is, that was like a blueprint that was put together by GOP strategists, so that when they came into power, and right now they almost seem to have absolute power when it comes to government, then they would put these pieces into place. And so labor seems to be no exception. Now, one thing Mr. Fuller also said, and thank you again, Derek, is that he was really big on this, and I use the medical quote about first do no harm. He said avoid what is called racial shadowboxing. And all of this is in the code book. You can get the code book by going to producejustice.com. He had 3 books, wrote the original book back in 1984, wrote the Word Guide back in 2010, then he wrote his original, revised, expanded edition of the original book in 2016. Now he said, when you are assigned, bribed, coerced, or otherwise influenced by the racist to speak and or do harm to other victims, that can be called racial shadowboxing. And so what happens, the racists hide behind people that they put out front. They're in the shadows, and they put out people. Sometimes people don't even realize that they are being used in such a way. And so it is incorrect to speak against victims who are used as shadows. So my first reaction is, well, shoot, some of them, they should be talked about. They should be uninvited to the picnic. But Mr. Fuller is saying they are victims just like we are. They may not have as strong of a will as we have. They may be under threat. As he said, they may be coerced, bribed, and who knows what else is going on. It's not our job is to beat up on any victim. We might not like it. And I'm just going to tell you, some of it I really don't like. I really have a bad taste in my mouth when I look at some of the people who are acting in the shadows or working in the shadow boxing. But he's saying, without putting words in his mouth, they are victims too. So what do we do? How do we do this? We have to dismantle the system. The same thing, which is something that's not quite as egregious, is that we work. We go to work. I know people who are happily working in the federal government. I know people who are happily working in institutions that have been proven to be not working in our best interest. But you're in this system. You have families. You have responsibilities. I've already told you we can only hire 2% of our own people. So I'm going to say another thing that's happening this month, started on August 1st, was Black Business Month. So I'm going to do some more intersectionality, if you allow me. So while we're working to dismantle this system, which is a very egregious system, it's an evil system, it's a dangerous system, it's a violent system, it must be dismantled. Somebody put in the comments, and I really like what they said. They said, Mr. Fuller said that anything that can be created can also be dismantled. And I agree with that. And so we have to work. We have to do this juggling act and walk this tightrope while we're trying to build our own, close that 11% gap between the 13% of our population and the 2% of our ability to hire our own people. We have to work on dismantling this system. And when we go to work, Mr. Fuller says all victims are equal servants to the racists and white supremacists. They're fearful. And no non-white person can justify blaming the other. Nobody should be name calling Nobody should be denouncing anyone as they work in this system, because each person, and he's talking about all of us, each person does his or her part in direct or indirect support of the system of white supremacy. Now that was like a, you know, like a, I had to say, hold on there, brother. I'm not supporting anything. I'm not supporting no such thing. But am I? Are you? Any of you brothers want to comment on that? Bobby, Mr. Bobby, let me get Terry back up here.
Am I in?
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, of course I'm a participant in the system. I'm in the system. However, I could either be a part of the system where I'm supporting it, or a part of the system where I'm trying to deconstruct and destroy or replace it with something else. And so I'm actively understanding I'm in the system. But my position is those 10 stops that you spoke about, that Neely Fuller was such a prophetic individual to put out, I'm starting with that. And I'm going to start with myself. Do no harm to myself. Do no harm to even somebody who might be trying to do harm to me, unless we go to the last people activity. And we don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'll do everything in my power to avoid what is called internecine activity. And that's going out and hurting those people that's closest to me. They say the closest to sometimes hurt the mostest. Also, if I see you trying to hurt me, I'm going to get away from you. I heard our prophet, if you will, Neely Fuller say, no contact, no conflict.
Right.
So I don't want to have these experiences. And so if I understand that you that guy that called yourself the real N or whatever, when I see you coming my way, I'm going another way. And you can call me everything you want to. Just don't call me late to pick up that check. I'm busy. So internecine activity is going sideways with this pressure that we inmates feel. I developed a word and concept. Intranecine activity is me going in and hurting myself with stress, with alcohol, drugs, and other stuff like that. This is something that has to be forbidden, because not only am I hurting myself, I am the hand of the invisible colonizer hurting myself and each other.
Yeah.
I can't do that. That has got to be prohibited. And I just want to say that it's got to be prohibited. When I see a person acting in a bad way, like a rabid dog, stay the hell away from them. And then try to understand what it is, not what the F is wrong with them, but what happened to you or what's happening to you. And then I understand, well, we're in prison. So now I got to figure out how to do my bid the right way and not do a bid in a negative way where it's not constructive. I just had to put that in there. Those 10 stops are essential. Thank you.
Mr. Bobby. Thank you, Terry. Mr. Bobby.
Yeah, I was wondering. I see that there are 5 people in the chat. Do they have anything that they can say?
Let me see here.
That's a lot of people in there.
In the chat, you mean?
Yeah, I'm looking on my screen. There are at least 5 people in there.
That is. Actually, there's 2, Derek and Terry.
Oh, okay. Now it said 6 people.
Let's see, somebody has come in. Okay, we see Khalif.
Yeah. Khalif. See what he has to. Does he have anything to say, Khalif? He usually sends me stuff.
Okay, we see Khalif and we see Broken Berlin. All right, let's keep this conversation going here. Hold on there. I'm gonna fill up the screen here with. I see Broken Berlin. If you want to come on, wave your hand. We'll put you on the stage. All right, Broken Berlin. And we have Khalif. We're gonna put up here. We're gonna have Broken Berlin. We have a full house. Welcome to the stage, brothers. Khalif, what say you, brother?
Well, first I want to say Grand Rising. I'm going to keep it brief because my morning is pretty busy, but I hear a lot of the conversation that we have. Now, when it comes to labor, everybody has their own definition of that word labor. Some people may think it's physical. Some people may think it's mental. Some people don't have the concept at all. We can only use the words that's been given to us. So I think we should be careful repeating what we've been told. See, we do everything out of tradition. Somebody told you there was a Jesus. Somebody told you about a job. Also, Mr. Gates, I hear you always talk about that guy that's in office. I'm referring to Donald Trump. He has no power. Somebody else is telling him exactly what to do. Like these wars that we are in, they've already been on the radar. They were already in play before he got in office. They just handed him the playbook. When Obama was in office, they handed him the playbook. If Kamala Harris would have got in office, they handed him, she would have been handed the same playbook. And you mentioned Project 2025. There's been a Project 2025 since this earth has existed. If you go back to the 1930s, when the president was in office then, they had a project. Project 2025, the new version, has been around since the beginning of time. They just changed it and updated. And also, I think that I always say, if we want to change this system, see, our problem is we talk too much. What did Gil Scott-Heron said? The revolution will not be televised. What he meant that it's in your mind. Even Malcolm said, if we're going to do something, go behind closed doors and do it. Every time somebody gets shot, they get a mother on TV because it's hardly ever the fathers. Oh, they killed my son. We're going to protest. No, we're going to march. No. If you're going to do something to this system, go in a room, close the door, and you can do it in silence the same way. So I think we have a problem with talking too much. We entertain words instead of trying to figure out how to create. Like I was telling the lady last week, and like I always tell my great nieces and nephews or the young people or the children I mentor, if somebody calls you the N-word and it doesn't fit, don't worry about it. It's not words, like Mr. Fuller would say, words are like tubes. You use them appropriately. So if I'm in Columbus and I say, hey, Mr. Bobby, look, I'm coming through Columbus, I got a flat tire, I need you to bring me a jack. Well, if he brings me an ink pen, that's not going to change my tire. It's not a tool that I can use. So I think we have to get better as a people. And like Donald Trump, he has no power. It's them people that's just like back in the day when they created Christianity. The term infidel has been around for thousands of years. So when they created this thing called Christianity, the reason why they came out with this thing called Dum Diversas from the Pope, and when they conquered these lands, if they couldn't convert you to Christianity, they wanted to enslave you or kill you. But it was the doctrine was called just war. That was their doctrine. And I'm hearing Mr. Bobby talk about wealth, so-called wealth. Well, the wealthiest person that I read about to ever live was a man named Mansa Musa. Now, does anybody know about the Fortune family and some people that we had? Annie Tumble Malone. They don't never talk about her, but our fortunes disappear. See, when other people die, they leave legacies. When the Rockefellers die, the Rothschilds, when we die, we just leave here. So if you want to talk about labor, we better start it in the mind first. And I'm gonna say this before I go, because you know I have a lot of things to say, but I have a definition for that word. I mean, I have a different take on that word CIA, being that I worked in the government for so long. See, everybody they call it the Central Intelligence Agency. I call it controlled individuals available, because that's what we are. Somebody taught you to read the Bible. Somebody told you Christmas. Somebody told you Thanksgiving. So we have to start, if we're going to beat this system, we have to start reversing the things that we've been told and use logic to make sense out of it. And one last thing I want to say, because I know it's time to close soon. John Henrik Clarke, if you listen, it's about a 30-minute speech where he said you have no friends. And the one important thing he said two things. If you look in the mirror and what's smiling back at you, and what you looking at is not smiling back at you, you have no friends. And he also said something else. Everything that you touch should be about your liberation. And if it's not, you need to throw it into the trash can of history. And that's all I'm gonna say today. Maybe next time I come on sooner, I also have my own thing that I do. I try to talk it, but anyway, that's what I want to say. But I think we need to change our mindset. Instead of picking up the Bible every Sunday, how about reading the Code of Federal Regulations, uniform? There's ways that you can work in this system. You just have to know how to do it, because trust me, and I know Mr. Gate always say this guy in the white. No, sorry, Mr. Gate, Trump has no power.
All right.
I talk to people all the time around the world, and trust me, Trump ain't pulling no. He just loud with his. Everybody, every president or every administration that come in office, they have something going on. You just don't know about it. Trump is just loud with here, but trust me, he's not pulling no shots, because if the people were really serious and he was really making some noise, he'd be like Kennedy. So no, he's not calling no shot. But I'm gonna get out of here. Next time I try to come on earlier. You guys have a good day, and thank you for letting me talk.
All right. Thank you, Khalif.
Did you want to listen to? Okay.
I would just add to what Khalif said. People do talk. I talk. Many people talk. But just because somebody talks doesn't mean they're telling you everything. And so just like the people in the White House, and they may be talking, they be doing things. There are other things they're not doing. And I do believe that even though Trump doesn't have absolute power, he does have the power to impact our lives. And he's doing so in a very negative way. Right now we have troops patrolling the streets of D.C. I'm not sure if Kamala Harris would have done that. I'm sure she doesn't have absolute power either, but there are degrees. Everything is, very few things in this world are absolute. It's a matter of degree. Let's get Broken Berlin up here.
Oh, okay. I wanted to speak about the idea of slavery, but before the gentleman leaves, I was going to say some of the first steps, like Neely Fuller says, that to actually get universal justice from white people, the only thing we need from them is just to be honest. And with you working in the CIA, I mean, I understand you have to hide your identity and things, but you have the ingredients for what we need in this community. You have a validation that, we probably would supersede a lot of other information coming from, because you've been in the system. So the very first thing we need for you to be is to be honest about the things that you've learned, not here in this place right now, but in your community. You seem to have a lot of things to say, and you seem to know a lot more maybe than the rest of us, with you being CIA, and working within the government. So we need people like yourselves to actually show your face and have these kind of conversations and let us know what's really going behind the curtains, instead of giving us knowledge behind an avatar that we can't see. And now to my other point about the slavery, it's absolutely true. We need to look big picture. The jailhouse system on a global scale is a slave trade. And I'm here in Germany, and we're watching America like a zoo. The degradation of the black man, whether it's a triumph or degradation, it's the zoo to the world. They're always watching it. And I think our slavery is, with the internet being the main invention from America, because America invented the internet. Now we have a mental slavery. We now have a internet slavery. We have menstrual shows that are on TikTok, and we're degrading ourselves. But at the same time, we're still in prisons like crazy. And we need to figure out who's actually benefiting off our degradation. Is it the record companies? Is it okay, then who's in control of the record companies? Who's actually feeding us this programming that's leading young kids to the prison system? Who's feeding these programs? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, we got a little noise in the background. Go ahead, wrap it up, Broken Berlin. You're making a very good point.
Okay. I'm quick. I'm a bartender. I'll say this in less than. I'm real quick. So I'm just saying that we have to, like Neely Fuller said, trace it back and find the logic, follow the logic. Who's benefiting the most off our degradation? Who's benefiting the most off our young kids picking up this thug culture? And once we understand that, connect the dots and then ignore them. And I think we have to really start understanding that we have to ignore Hollywood, ignore the record companies, ignore this music, ignore all the things that are programming us to do these dumb things that lead us either to death, degradation, or the prison system, which is slavery in its own way, because our slavery is in death as well. As we die, it's all slavery, and that's my final point.
Thank you, Broken Berlin. We got some very, very strong points today. I'm going to bring up Nicolette, and we're going a little over today. We started a little late, so we're going to just add a few more minutes to the end of the show here. This is an hour show. I know folks have said we should have it more than an hour, but right now, an hour is what we have. Thanking Khalif and Broken Berlin and Derek and Derek and all the folks who tuned in today. Let me get Nicolette up here. Uh-oh, hold on, Nicolette. Nicolette, I hit you by mistake. Come back on, please. Add yourself back. Oh, there you go.
Hello.
There you go, Nicolette.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, so I just found the book by George Jackson, The Blood in My Eye, which go exactly with what we're talking about today. And two abstracts I took out last night was the prerequisites for successful popular revolution is the victor's junk, the old machinery state of property. So to me, as Neely Fuller, being the ancestors and others, was teaching us that we have to solve the problem in all areas of activities with a new system of thinking of the way that we are the working class. And then I'm kind of speeding through this, so I had something else, but I'm going to speed through it. A social revolution after the fact of modern corporate capitalist state can only mean the breakup that is able to completely form a new economic as well as culture, which to me, as I was reading this, was saying to me exactly what Mr. Fuller was saying. As a Generation X, that when you got to solve the equation for X, then my job is to problem solve, which I feel like through my own life work of real life situations, I'm doing exactly what I need to do to help solve the race problem by challenging the entities that be and learning their own law, which is the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, the amendments, and calling back to them what they wrote for themselves, but that we won through Martin Luther King in them era of the civil rights era. So that's I forgot that acronym, VGQ today.
VGQ.
Yeah, so that's my VGQ today. Comparing what we're doing right now with a life of a young man that went to prison, which when I seen the book and started reading it, so similar to my son getting framed at at a gas station, same way that man went to jail at 18 years old for stealing $71 in his era. However, while he was in there, he wrote that book and designed that book, which is still calling out for the time that I'm in now, even though it was in his time that he was in. So when we keep asking about how we solve the race problem, looking at that book, and especially when he said, we are dying anyway. However, the point that we're not winning is that we're not collective, like Neely Fuller was teaching us, leaving no person behind. We're not collectively joining with forces with other cultures anymore to ensure that outside of the civil rights, there was a lot of black and white. I mean, Brown was there marching too, but now it's like now that we're so diverse, we're still not unionizing. So it's everybody is universally fighting for the same principles. So that was again my VGQ. Thank you. I was so late. I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you, Nicolette. Mr. Bobby, let me get you back up here.
Okay, I'm just concurring with all of
I wanted to write that down. You said that the book was called The Blood in My Eye. I wanted to write that down. Was that?
Yes, I'm sorry, my mute button was clicking. But yes, it's called The Blood in My Eye by George Jackson. George Jackson.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Mr. Bobby.
Oh, I was just going to say that I'm in agreement with most of what the participants in the show had to say today. The people in the chat and then SAT7 always gives us some good knowledge and where to get it from. So this has been good. It really has. It's been very good, very informative. Now it's up to us individually, but then collectively to do something about it. Go ahead, Gabe.
All right. Let me put a boldness today. First of all, I want to thank everybody who's joined in the conversation today. Please come back and let's do it again and again and again. We are, one thing I will say without fear of contradiction is that, hold on one second.
Everybody mute up so we can finish. Everybody mute up.
Okay, yeah, like I was saying, each one of us are, as Mr. Fuller says, are prisoners of war. We're in this prison system. And he said, and I was put, as I do the final wrap up, do everything you can, including how to do the work. If you find yourself on a job, if you find yourself in an institution, whether it's an institution of higher learning, whether it's an education institution, whether it's a government institution, put that work to use in a manner that will produce constructive result, and be willing to help others do the same. Also, he said, do not pretend to have more power than you have. I try to be very mindful of that. That's why I don't talk about everything that I do. Don't pretend to have more power than you have. Be realistic. Tell yourself the truth at all times. When needed, direct others to seek answers to their questions by asking those people who have the most power to answer the most questions. So Mr. Fuller he presented these books, and they are replete with information, with dialogue. I'll be the first one to say that none of us on this call, none of us in our community, Mr. Fuller included, have all the answers. We will learn from each other. That's how it's going to happen. Mr. Fuller, up until his final days, said, I'm still learning. I echo that sentiment, and I entreat each of you under the sound of my voice to continue to learn. We've had some very thoughtful people on this call today. Philippe and Terry and Nicolette and Broken Berlin and Derek, and of course, Mr. Bobby and myself. We're all still learning. I will continue to learn. I will continue to bring on different voices, people with different opinions. And Mr. Fuller gave us this acronym, VGQ, Victims Guaranteed Qualifications, that you have the right to say it. No matter how off base you might think it is or how off base I think it is, you have a right to say it. And if you come on this airways, I'm going to put you on. I might not sit here and debate everything you say. Sometimes I'll just listen, because sometimes I'm learning based on what you said. We all need to go back and research. People have put out some documentaries and books we need to go check out. But do your own research as well. And come on here. Let's have a very lively, enlightening discussion. And if you go out here on this weekend, we do want to acknowledge the work of others. We acknowledge you wherever you are, whatever type of work you're in, or whatever type of capacity. Whether you're the supervisor, whether you're the owner, I have to put that in quotes. We do have to continue to address the systemic inequalities that affect the people of color in the labor market. And we have to constantly be working to dismantle the system of white supremacy. So we have a lot of work ahead. And we start by talking, the open dialogue, and we have to go back to the code book and make sure that Mr. Fuller, look at some of the things that Mr. Fuller has asked us to do. And whether we agree or not, we come on this show and talk about it. On that note, the feed has been full today. We've had a lively discussion. The screen has been full. I appreciate it. And I will see you all next week right here on the Counter Racist Code, Mr. Fuller's Counter Racist Code show. And Mr. Bob, do you have any final words?
Justice.com. ProduceJustice.com.
All right. Yeah.
Watch out for the King Alfred plan, y'all. Gil Scott Heron and the man, The Man Who Cried I Am was written by John Williams, the King Alfred plan. That's exactly what's happening in DC right now.
All right.
And let's not forget George Jackson, The Blood in My Eye, of the revolution that needs to be made in order for us to see the change on Labor Day.
Thank you.
All right. We're out.
Peace.
If you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day,
that as a non-white person in need of things in the system of white supremacy,